wanted to kind of come on and do a little sit-down video because I haven't done very many videos on this channel, and I'm really sorry about that. I am going to be now uploading once a week on Wednesdays. If I can, I'm going to try doing twice a week. I'm going to be focusing a lot more on delicious food recipes. So that's kind of the direction we decided this channel is going to go, is let's give you some wholesome, delicious, flavorful, whole food, plant-centered meals. Now, you probably saw in my little description, I am not plant-based. I don't like the term plant-based. I feel like that term has been hijacked. What does that mean? So I was going grocery shopping a few months ago, and I stumbled upon the frozen food aisle, and there is this pot pie, and in big, big letters you see plant-based, and I'm like, oh, now I don't eat a whole lot of processed foods, but that still caught my eye. I'm like, a plant-based pot pie from one of the big names? Like, that's really cool. So I pick it up and I look at it, and my first instinct was, they made a plant-based, presumably vegan pot pie. That's really cool. And I turn it over and I look at the ingredients, and that's when I see it has dairy in it. I'm like, that's weird. It says plant-based. And then you see the fine print of it has plant-based meat alternatives in it. And that's what I mean about it being hijacked, is what plant-based means to certain companies, certain restaurants, certain people is not the same definition universally. And that's really confusing. And at this point, it just almost doesn't mean anything. It's the fact that, as I kept reading it, I don't even think it was vegetarian. Like, I think they used like chicken broth and dairy products. They just use the term plant-based because it catches your eye, because it's so trendy. Another example is when I used to tell people, yeah, I kind of consume a plant-based diet. They're like, oh, cool, we'll come over and like, we'll make sure you have food. I'm like, I don't know, because my diet, I do a little bit more cleaner eating. They're like, oh, no, we got you. And I would go over and it's beyond sausage or impossible meat alternatives. It's these ultra processed science experiments, and I'm like, technically that is plant-based, but I guess because I became plant-based before those things existed, my definition is still a little bit more like whole foods focused. But again, it's been hijacked. So one company can consider it something that's plant-based if it just has plants in it. One says, well, it is vegan, but it's ultra processed and it's not good for you. And then other people consider plant-based is synonymous with vegan. So even if you promote something where it's like, focus on plant foods, but you don't have to be vegan, people don't understand that. So it's just all confusing. All these terms are confusing. Even people close to me have been like, isn't plant-based and vegan the same thing? And I'm like, no. And even people who have known me for years. And so that's why I am no longer plant-based. I consider my diet a whole foods, plant-centered diet. That makes more sense to me. The center of my plate is always whole plant foods. I may sprinkle in some processed foods occasionally, but whole plant foods are at the center of my plate. That makes more sense. Instead of it's plant-based, because I mean, vegetable shortening is plant-based, but it's probably the worst ingredient you can consume compared to most ingredients. So, I am a whole food plant-centered eater. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, what's the difference? I think the main difference is the processed food element and the lack of animal-based products. Because, like I said, plant-based is hijacked. It's watered down. It's too many different definitions. It's too confusing. So you're going to see in this channel that we do plant-centered eating. We do plant-centered plates. We make plants the stars. And I don't mean plants as in a science experiment. I mean we use real beans, we use cashews, we use oranges, apples, kale, lettuce, all the colors of the rainbow. That is what we're going to focus on this channel. How do you cook with those while making it taste delicious, while let's cut out the added sugar, because we don't need refined sugar in our food for it to taste good. Let's cut out the oil. Oil is a big one. I don't know how often people cook my food with oil, and I think it's because, again, just because we don't eat animal products, people assume we eat everything else. And it's one of those things where it's like, no, plant foods can be unhealthy too. And let's not do, the ultra processed food. Like, we've made it so popular to consume like meat alternatives, and I'm not saying I never do. I'm saying that's like a luxury of like once or twice a year, because I don't believe they're healthy foods. I look at a meat alternative just as processed as eating some chips. Like, I'm sure they have some added nutrient benefits, but it's all junk food. That's the best way of putting it. Ultra processed food is just junk food. We don't do a lot of vegan cheeses. We don't do a lot of like most of the vegan desserts. We try to stick with whole foods. And even this is a little bit of a tangent, but even like a vegan dessert, like I'd rather go someplace and have like a fresh and baked vegan cinnamon roll than go and have like a freezer one that has a bunch of these chemicals and stuff in it. So that's a little bit about the direction this channel is going, and a little bit about why we won't be using the term plant-based as much. Now, I know that's more of a familiar term, so we may still use it like in like hashtags and searchability, but when it comes to the language we use in this channel, it's going to be focused on plant-centered because that makes the most sense to us. So yeah, I will see you on next week's video. We are going to show you how to make the world's most delicious mug brownie. Now, this mug brownie has no refined sugar in it, and it is legitimately a healthful brownie. So really exciting. We will do that next week, so stay tuned. And if you like this video, I know it wasn't much, it's just a little something, like, subscribe, and yeah, we'll see you next week.